This episode is sponsored by Zenro Clothing Co. Pick up your tees and or accessories at zenroclothingco.com and be sure to use offer code Socrates at checkout for 20% off select items. Also, if you're not into spending the money, just check out the Zenrail radio playlist. zenrailclothingco.com, music for your everyday. This episode also sponsored by The Portian Bakery. If you're located in the Portian area of Scarborough, Toronto, be sure to check out The Portian Bakery, say what's up to Arville, and pick up a donut or two. Baked daily, crafted with love. This episode also sponsored by Podbean. Podbean is the podcasting platform of choice. It's the one that me and Vish use, and is great, you know, if you're looking to start that DIY podcast yourself. Definitely check out Podbean. Use the link podbean.com/SocraticGamers and gain 1 month of unlimited podcasting for free. Test it out, build that content. Anyone could podcast, right, Vish?
Yep.
Start a podcast and get your ideas out there. All right, enjoy the episode.
Okay.
Actually, this is great that you're gonna end at 11:30 because I gotta run Portian right after this. Okay, so all right, so I guess it's gonna be like a relatively short one, but I do want to start off with something crazy, like it's crazy story. So we were at Tara wanted to do like a conjoined birthday party, like me and her, my family and her family.
Yeah.
Like at Parcheggio. Do you remember Parcheggio? Have we ever eaten there?
I don't remember names, so probably not.
Okay, so it's like just down the street. And
Okay,
it's like
okay.
this Italian spot. It's like fusion Italian. It's really, really good. So she's like, oh yeah, let's have like a conjoined birthday party. I was like, all right, sure. It's like pretty early. So when we got there, they were like, oh, your reservation is moved, so we're gonna give you like a private room.
Okay.
You know, but the only thing associated with the private room is you have to let the photographer shoot you. So if you guys are cool with that, because they need like pictures for social media.
Okay. Okay.
So I was like, oh, okay, if you guys are down, and they're like, yeah, sure, let's take these shots. And then so we go in, and there's like all these cards on the table, and like everyone has like their name or whatever. Photographer shooting away, and then they like open the cards, and it says like you're invited to our wedding. Okay.
Okay.
And then in the back of it, it says the date and time for the moment that they all sat down.
Oh.
Yeah, crazy, right? So I get up, I get the officiant, and Tara and I got married yesterday.
Oh shit.
That's crazy. That's why I wanted to do it today. When I was like all week, I was like, yo, 10:30. It's so funny. I was like, I didn't know how I was gonna tell you that story. I was like trying to figure out the best way to do it. I was like, all right, I'll just let it flow out. But we were initially going to have like Wob as the photographer because like, you know, he shoots everything. But then we're like, okay, it's not fair if we like tell him and not everyone. So I thought I would just like tell you first on the podcast and get your like genuine reaction. But I feel like it's like 10 years, so you know, it's like about time, I guess.
I guess. Yeah.
It's like one of those like black belts, you know, those like Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belts that like you have to train for 10 years and they surprise you with it. It's kind of like that, you know? They're like, oh, I guess we got married. My like biggest fear was I really thought somebody's going to be upset. So like, I'll send you guys the video after of like the surprise, but you could see me like visibly like, oh my God, like please nobody get mad, you know? Because like, like, you know, like punked and then people are like, no, it's
Right.
fake, bro.
Right.
That's not real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's so funny because like the whole week, Tara had been like telling her sister, like kind of like egging them on. We had booked this a while ago, and then she's like egging them on a bit, and then they were starting to get suspicious. And then her sister's like, "Oh, are you guys planning like a secret wedding?" And we're like, "No, no." And then she asked me like as we were waiting outside because she was inside. It was like pretty obvious if you see her, you're like, "Oh, okay, you're gonna get married, right?" And her sister like took me aside and was like, but for real, are you guys having a wedding right now? And I was like, oh, no, she's just in there because like our tables got switched and we had the lie I gave you was literally the lie I gave them. And then they were like, oh, you're so good at like, I had no idea. And I was like, it has to be mundane. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, cancel this. Oh, you guys sure you want the photographers in there? So like, you know.
Yeah, I think at that
Like
point it was
it's
like I was like, a photographer. That's kind of weird. Like,
yeah, right.
I think
But it's like oh, but you guys need consent. But
yeah,
that's what they're all feeling. They're all like that's kind of weird, you know. But okay, sure. I felt like the conjoined birthday party, like that was the first thing Tara came up with. But it was like our
Mm.
birthdays are not even close to this date. So it's like, why are you guys having this party? You know? Actually the funniest one is like her a lot of them, like my sister too, was like, oh, are you guys gonna announce something at this thing? And I was like, oh no, what why? And then she like a lot of people thought like maybe she's gonna be like, oh, I'm pregnant or something like that,
Well,
you know?
right. Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
that could be the other alternative, but we're like, no, just getting married. But anyways, yeah. Just wanted to put that out there.
Nice.
But that is all right. And it was like difficult too because like I really wanted to tell people, but I only told like my coworker. It's like no, I couldn't tell anyone
Yeah.
else. You
It's
know what
not
I mean?
gonna get out. Yeah. Without.
Well, yeah. Because like if you tell one, then the other person's like can't tell like the other people. But it's so funny because then it was like, oh, like I had no expectation of the day because I went to Port Union yesterday and like I just walked with your
Mm.
brother. Like I made it so normal, like it was like a regular day, you
Yeah.
know. And I was like, oh, I just don't forget to be late, early, you know, whatever. But yeah, big surprise. Anyways, yeah, just throwing that
Nice.
out there. All right, but that's all right. If you jumped in to listen to that whole story, you can jump off now because we're about to talk some weirdness. But yeah. Okay, so actually on podcast, do you have anything specific that you want to go over?
I don't think much really happened that I can remember from
Okay,
last week. So I don't think I've
okay,
been
okay,
adding
because I have
into
some like kind
any
of
of this
random stuff.
stuff, like other than the Apple
But like,
last
there's
week, but like
we
randomness.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But like as we like prep for these, I ask you like if there's
Yeah.
anything you want to cover. But so I do have some random stuff that I just wanted to go over. I have one really interesting one that I did want to ask you about, see if you knew anything about it. Since we have like a relatively short podcast window, like, this is perfect. I guess the first thing, and this is kind of interesting. So I was watching, but I don't know. Okay, so when you're like watching YouTube videos, you're like, I don't know if I should trust this. Is this real? But then it's like kind of backed up with hard evidence. That's why the UFO thing for me, the UAP thing, is very difficult to watch like YouTube videos because like anybody could piece this together.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if you have like legit documentaries with like Navy pilots and stuff, you're like, okay, this is this is kind of credible, right? So I watched this video on Drake secretly being a mob boss.
Okay.
Sounds ridiculous.
Sure.
Like Drake, yeah. Um, so basically what they were kind of saying in the thing is that he hires a bunch of people to do his dirty work for him, and then the people that like he calls out. So like, there was this guy. Oh, I forgot his name, but he shouts him out in many songs, and basically he was like indicted for human trafficking,
Okay.
and he had this like ex-boxer, and basically what they're trying to say is he hired a whole team so he can get his hands dirty without getting his hands dirty.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, okay, so there's this ex-boxer who is on his team, and then this waiter got in his face, and then he threw like a symbol, like kind of like a neck cut gesture, but not like so obvious. Is like it's more like just swiping his neck, right?
Okay.
And then in doing that, they took him outside and they just beat him up. And then it sounds like, okay, this is like some weird fantasy, whatever, but they have footage of it. And then it's like the boxers beating him up, and then Drake's in the background just watching and like taking in the show. And I'm like, are you? Because like when you look at Drake, you're kind of like, okay, this guy's kind of ridiculous. I don't know if you've seen his new look where it's like hair ties and they're all rainbow colored.
No,
It's like floating around
sure.
the internet.
Okay.
So he's like big afro now, and like these like hair ties that are like like rainbow colored, obviously for girls. So it's like, are you trolling us, making you think that you're not who you really are, but behind the scenes you're actually like this big like mob boss kind of person, or you're like into the underworlds?
Okay.
Like, what do you think? Like, can you get away with that in this day and age? Like, there's been a few.
It depends, right?
YouTube
Like I
videos
don't.
about-
Yeah, but I don't think you can. I'm sure there would be like a lot of. If that was the case, wouldn't there be like paparazzis like pushing this kind of story?
You're like,
Or
that's very true. That's very
right,
true. But like,
right. it would get out. I feel
but
like it would
but it
if it was
for
often.
sure. But it's sort of like yeah, but I wonder if it's like one of those things where it's like it doesn't spill out into the mainstream media until it's time to spill out in the mainstream media. Because like right now, Russell Brand has these like sexual allegation charges against him, and like like all the stuff with
Sure.
Harvey Weinstein. Is it
hmm
like it's gonna come out later? You know,
Yeah, unless they're building an
which kind of freaked me out,
investigation. Yeah.
right? So like his friend was gunned down in Toronto. His like one of his closest friends was gunned down in a parking lot. He's like running away,
hmm
and they shot him 20 times. It was like an assassination kill.
Right. Right.
Right, like 20 times, like that's a little excessive. And then the police tried to get Drake to like collaborate,
hmm
cooperate in the investigation. And Drake's like, no, I'll just like handle it myself, you know. But then like, what does that mean? Like, did you put a hit? Like, it reminds me of the whole Tupac Biggie thing. And I'm just like, is that what's really going on? Like, we glorify these gangster rappers, and then it's sort of like UFC fighters. Joe Rogan brought this up. He's like, when UFC fighters get into street fights, why are you surprised? They're literally fighters. Like, this is built in their DNA. So it's almost like, is Drake actually a mob boss person because he raps about it? And we'll all be surprised when it's like, oh, you're rapping about the truth.
But he raps about
You know what
it.
I'm saying? Yeah. There's a song called Mob Ties.
Okay. Is it the newer
Um,
stuff or
there's
like older stuff?
No, it's like it's been peppered throughout his whole career.
Okay.
Like The Game, the Game,
Yeah.
50 Cent. So he has a song with Drake, and like in that song, it's all about how people put a hit on Drake, and then he showed up to pick up Drake and bring him to the studio, like gave him like all this like security and stuff, and then it's just like, when are these like lyrics that are just lyrics, and when are you telling me the truth? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that was the big mystery of Drake, because he doesn't like seem like a very intimidating character, and yet he's rapping about this. So you're kind of confused, but then it's like these videos are coming out of like these like connections are being made, and you're kind of like, oh, were you this the whole time?
Right.
But you're from Toronto, so I was so confused too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know, but I think like, I mean, if there is a story, it'll probably eventually come out if that's the case. But like,
okay.
how do we know
I
if these things are true or not, right? Or what were the
for sure
reasonings for those other videos, right? So, like,
that's what I'm wondering too. Is like, am I just being fed down the wrong rabbit hole, and I'm like getting all excited about it, but it's like, oh, this is totally fake?
well, yeah, there's a lot of that cases that could happen, right? Like, it could look one way, but it may mean something else. You know what I mean?
Fair point. Yeah, totally. All right, so here's another one. So Drake hired this guy to make like hooks for him, like melodic hooks, and then he's like lives in Toronto, and Drake just ended up paying like $500 for his like, but he's like, but I made like all these like hooks for you, like very famous hooks.
Sure.
And so then he was like outing Drake on like a lot of interviews.
Okay.
Right. And then the next thing was like he got beat up and sent to the hospital, allegedly by Drake's bodyguards, the people that he hired.
Mm-hmm.
And then Drake finally put like an end to it. He's like, oh, we got to stop this madness, whatever. And then like now he's like, oh, I love Drake again. It's like, what's going on behind the scenes? Because like when he got beat up and the rapper posted pictures of himself in the hospital, all beat up.
Right.
So you're like, and then he blamed Drake's bodyguards.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, okay, there's some truth here, but
well, we don't know if that story is even real, right? How do we know that story part's true?
Oh, you think he just posted that and there's just
like, there's a lot of people that just make there's a lot of people that like post stuff that are not true.
Made up.
Yeah.
Fair. But then they made up.
Well,
and then, like,
but there's like different. There's different. There's different.
Weird.
There's different reasons to make up or not, right? It's like you don't, because this is just not going to look good on your look, right? It's not. You know what I mean? Like overall, his image, right?
Who, Drake or the guy, the rapper?
I'd say Drake. If there's getting a lot more attention to it, it's still going to affect your career, right? So it's like.
So you're like, you pay him off. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's like this is getting out of hand. It doesn't even though the story may not be true, like a lot of things come out. It's like, but they're not true. But you have to settle it just because well, you don't want this to continue affecting your career or your, your business kind of thing.
Yeah, true. Actually, yeah, you're right. You're right. It's like nipping it in the bud. Okay, so maybe I was just down like the weirdest rabbit hole
Yeah, it could
of like
happen. I mean,
videos.
like that's what I'm saying. Like, if you don't know which of the ways it goes, we don't really know. But it's one person's word, and you can only go if it goes to court. Then like the evidence comes out, then you can talk about what's actual facts that are not right. It's because people can make up
Okay,
things
fair.
all the time.
Mm. True, true. But you have to be like under oath and stuff like that, and
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
like defend yourself. Okay, that makes sense. I love this like sound clarity you're giving me because I watched that. I was like, I'm freaking out, bro. Because like the other thing too is, well, I guess it's like Harvey Weinstein because no matter how big you are, you could still fall. But Drake has like a lot of connections. So like OVO is connected to the rappers. Imagine this came out and then it's like, oh, you got in bed with like a mob boss
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
But which is not uncommon because if you look at like Las Vegas, a lot of Las Vegas was built off of mob money. You know,
Sure.
so it's like,
Okay.
and then it just became legit. Because like
Mm-hmm.
you look at Las Vegas now, you're like, oh, it's like the entertainment capital of the world, right? But it's like that quote where it's like, no rich person was rich through like purely good means or whatever. You know what I'm trying to say? Like it's like you got rich through like nefariousness, and then now you're going clean. And
Yeah,
it's like,
I don't know.
is this
These
what
are
happened to
again,
you?
these are also like just quotes that have good, like
Oh, they just
interesting
sound good.
feelings. Yeah, it just sounds good. It's like
Yeah,
it's tantalizing, but it's like I don't know if that's even really true. People are just following
oh,
like if
oh,
you're going through the like whatever the laws are at the time, right? So it's like maybe these are gray areas, and then regulations happen or things like that. So it's like, is it really true that they're doing something illegal? But it's not really.
yeah, yeah, true. Okay, fair. Yeah, that's a fair point as well. Okay, okay. How about this one? Because I could actually see how, if you listen to his interviews, he's like very much. Even I posted one where he's like, I don't trust anybody in this game of music because if they had it their way, they'd have me on the street, tomorrow. So it's like, okay, but so the story was, and this is like a very credible story that's apparently happened. There's two moments where things got out of hand for Drake. So he's talking to Puff Daddy, P Diddy,
Yeah,
and P Diddy like slapped him across the face,
yeah. Hmm.
and he couldn't do anything. And then there's another story of like Ti, Ti the rapper.
Hmm. Yeah.
His bodyguards peed on Drake in a theater, and
Okay.
then Drake like left. So I'm like, okay, and what Drake was saying is like, a lot of these people have done some foul things. He never outed them, but then when I watched this video, I'm like, is this what you're talking about? Like how you got like basically like punked in front of everyone, and that's why you hired all these like crazy bodyguards because you know how like dangerous the game can get. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So I'm wondering, like, was this a plan, or let's say he is a mob boss? Was this a plan, or did you have to do this out of necessity because of what you've seen and experienced, being like slapped and peed on?
Hmm. Uh,
You know,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. If the other story is true, I can see how it's like understandable if that makes
this is
him.
like the buildup of his character, right?
Sure, yeah. But then that's why you need those other stories to make it fit, right? Like you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You can't just have it. Oh, like that
yeah.
doesn't make sense. Why would you have like these bodyguards just doing that? But like then you have to add this story to kind of add evidence to it. But like,
And then
is
you're
it
like,
true?
okay, I
Are
get
these other
why.
stories true?
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. I think the biggest takeaway from this whole thing is like, watch what you watch on YouTube, bro. Because I was just watching back to back ones. I'm like, this is interesting. But then I was watching like Kendrick Lamar's ones. This is kind of why I don't know. There's like okay. So you have like Drake who grew up in like Toronto, and then is doing all these nefarious things, like rapping about being like literally listen to Mob Ties, right? Baka's his name, and that guy is on like head of his security, and that guy was the one who's like in charge, like who got caught for like human trafficking. But so
Hmm.
anyways, so you have like Kendrick Lamar and Vince Staples. Okay, they grew up as gangbangers. Like they they were rappers,
Yeah.
but they are very open about like what's like the statute of limitation on being a gangbanger, or maybe there's like poetic license, right? But they often say like as when they were kids, they would like do a lot of nefarious things and they've like killed people
Sure. Yeah.
supposedly, right? And that's why they're turning around. That's why all their music is just positive. It's just like Kendrick Lamar's all about getting the people in Compton,
Yeah.
like
Right.
at a higher level.
Yeah.
Right. And then Vince Staples is like, why are we pushing negativity? It's all about positivity, being like a nice guy. So it's interesting that you see the two opposing ends of the spectrum where it's like two guys grew up in like gang violence and then they're trying to shift it around. And you get one who's like on Degrassi and like, I don't think he was in gangs, but like now he's like being a gangster,
Right. Right.
Allegedly with Chris Brown too. You know Chris Brown?
Yeah.
So he became a blood, and then he has like all these like blood people around him. But like, I think the Game was talking about it where he's like, oh no, it wasn't the Game. It was somebody else. But they were like, he never grew up as a blood. So it's like, why'd you just join affiliation? You are rich. You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you think that is? Like the grass is always greener.
I mean, I don't know. Like, but Drake is like much more popular than the other guys that you mentioned, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, would you want to hurt your like? If these things are true and they come out, that's going to hurt your career, right? Or it could, I don't know. It potentially could. Yeah, it could hurt your career based on like the kind of marketing deals you would get. So, or like other sponsor deals, right? So it's like, is it just because he's such a big player in the game that these stories are there
with it, or
no, not get away with it. That these things are added on to kind of hurt his career versus actually being true. Like because he's so big. Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's like other people want to get. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's interesting too. Fair point. Because there was another video I watched where, just went on a rabbit hole, but like Drake's like was so negative about his dad, like, oh, you're never there for me, and then apparently his dad was like, bro, what? We had a great childhood, I was always there for you. He's like, no, Dad, this is what sells. Like, we have to kind of do this. Right. So it's like maybe this is all just a marketing tactic, and you're right. He's getting so big that you're doing these disinformation campaigns to like, bring down his shine.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's so many.
Trust,
that's what I'm saying. Right? It's like because of that. It's like I don't know if this is true. That's like my stance on it until let's if it goes to court,
Right.
That's the only way that
out the truth.
Exactly, yeah, because who's going to go to jail or who's not. Like that's the actual where the evidence comes out.
Fair. Unless you're being really smart with it and you hire these people to do the things for you, and then you're actually not in trouble because like they did it. I didn't say to do it.
Yeah, but like it's like how smart are you? Are you able to get away with that? Like even that, it doesn't. There's so much more ways to. It depends. There's so much more evidence and things like that they'd have to do to prove that, or like why would the bodyguards just do that? They're working for you, so of course they're doing it because of you. You know what I mean? It's like.
True. Yeah. I see. You could make like a causal link there.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fair point. Did you ever see the I forgot what it was called, but it was like the unsolved mystery of like Biggie and Tupac's murder, and then at the end of that whole docuseries, it was supposedly P. Diddy who put the hit out.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
But the way, but if you watch the thing, is pretty genius. How he said he's like, oh, I'd pay somebody this much money to do it. But he didn't really he didn't say go do it. He was just like, oh, I would just pay somebody this amount of money if.
Right, but I think even if that's the case, but he was just saying it off the cuff. Let's say there are people that are just crazy.
Yeah.
That believe it and then go do it.
That's right. That's what they say happened in the docu series. That it's like he said it and then somebody like just took him on his word.
And it's very likely possible for that too, right? So. It may not be connected to anything at all. It's just like some crazy person who just believes everything this person says, let's say, right? And I can make some money out of this.
There's just so much. Yeah, for sure. There's just so much information now, especially with the internet. You're just like, I don't know what to believe. You know what I mean? Like, okay, so let me dovetail into UAPs again. So I've been watching some crazy documentaries, and I don't know. So the Stephen Greer is like, oh, Tom DeLonge is a disinformation
Right.
candidate, right? So I was watching his History Channel documentary, and he has like Lou Elizondo. So Lou Elizondo is the person in charge. This is the crazy story. So Lou Elizondo is the person in charge of the UFO investigation program at the Pentagon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
So this guy led the whole investigation for like 20 years or something, or 8 years. And then he decided to resign because he's like, I want to tell the world about UFOs because like this is not getting out. He's trying to tell people don't want to believe him or listen to him. So he's just like, all right, I'm just going to go do it on my own. And then there's another guy, Christopher Mellon, who was the like Secretary of Defense or something like that for Clinton, and then he was with Hillary. He was during the Clinton campaign, and then he ran for Hillary Clinton. I think he did something with Obama, but then he resigned too because he's like the UFO UAP phenomenon is just so big. I'm gonna like resign, work with Lou Elizondo, and then Tom DeLonge like got all these people and like merged this super group of people. Like there's a guy, the engineer from Skunkworks, who like supposedly knows stuff about reverse engineering crafts. So then my question is, again, just like the Drake thing, is this a disinformation campaign? Because Stephen Greer was saying that, right? Back then, they were like, the quickest way to have a one world government is to threaten UFOs, right? Because then everyone's up in arms. We need to protect ourselves from the invaders. And Stephen Greer said that these invaders, these like UFOs are not negative. They're not like hostile.
Right.
But we're going to paint the picture that they're hostile in order to create a one world government. Okay. And when I listen to this documentary, it's like the way they're speaking, it makes it hostile because they're like, we don't know what they're doing and their capabilities are there. So we have to treat it as a hostile threat because we don't know. And I was like, oh, you are moving us in that direction of like us versus them with aliens.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, you're like, is this a giant psyop campaign? Because Lou Elizondo worked for that, Christopher Mellon worked for that. They're like intelligence officers, and then you just get like this patsy Tom DeLonge to like orchestrate everything, and then we all believe it because like Tom's a freedom fighter for truth. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? You could see how that could be a thing, right?
Yeah. Sure. But like it depends now. Like, if are they just trying to change the viewpoint of society to make them as enemies? Like, is it something to do with policies? Is there anything that's coming out that they're doing specific to like, are they just saying that they want to increase military budget? Like,
no, okay, so that would be a causal thing, right? If you're like, oh, if we can create a one world government, increase the military budget, I totally agree with you. But what I'm seeing now is they're trying to like figure out where the money is going, because it's not really about UAPs, it's about the stealing of taxpayer money, because you said you're doing it with one thing and then now you're spending that money on something else. Right. So I'm like, that doesn't seem like a one world government move,
exactly,
unless you're playing like 4D chess and you're like, oh, we'll let them believe this, but then later on we're gonna make it about one world government. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think that's the thing. I think that tells you right there, like, why are there movements happening? Because it's not even the way that the American system works. It's not like a one world government, like, right? It's the Congress. There's different layers to the government that run different things.
Yeah.
So they can investigate each other as to, you know, that's why the whole money thing. Where is this money going? All right, that's the Congress is pushing for that, and Senate is different people. That they run different things, so you can investigate each other, right? So, I mean, like, is it one world government, or is just like, I don't think so. So,
okay, yeah, you don't see it like being obviously like
no, yeah, because then it would be just one way, right? Like you'd just be having, like the push for military budget because of this thing,
right, yeah.
Right.
Unless that's where it becomes, though, and then you start seeing it like ramp up. You know.
Yeah. But you gotta like again. Right. But you have to see what's happening, and people get voted in, and they leave or whatever, right? Like, this is the thing, right? So
Okay, true. Fair. Yeah, that's fair. Um, the the interesting part about, like, I was watching this documentary, and the reason why they're going to Congress is, I didn't know this, but the Congress directly handles the DoD budget. So, like, because I was like, why are you doing a congressional hearing? You know, like, or maybe that's what you do. I'm not sure, but like, they oversee like the defense budget, and they don't have any information regarding this. Like, it makes sense why, like, now we're looking into where this money is going, because literally the Congress handles the money. So it seems like a strategic move on their part. I'm just worried that it's a disinformation campaign. And I'm like, am I going to be led to believe that they're hostile? I just don't know.
Mhm.
You know, which, yeah. It's just,
But
again,
these are
so much is happening.
what you're saying is these are things from podcasts, right? Like you're watching these podcasts.
No, it's a documentary. It's
Okay,
a
or a
documentary.
documentary. So that's fine. But like when they were talking at the hearing, did anyone mention that they were hostile, or did they said we don't know?
No. Nobody asked about hostility. Nobody talked about hostility. They were literally just asking about, like,
Okay.
money. Mostly about money, actually.
Yeah. So
That's what,
okay.
yeah.
So there was no
And,
mention
like,
of hostility. So there's like in
No.
that's what I'm saying. Even though like hearings and stuff is not like not necessarily court stuff because it's not you don't really go to jail for these sort of things, but like even then there is some level of credibility, right? So it's like you don't want to say stuff that is like you know what I mean, like in false or like you're pushing a narrative or
Yeah. True. Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. Like, it would be. Yeah. Okay.
they're trying to stay
If
within the facts that they know, right?
Yeah. Because that is something, like, not even like Tom. Not Tom. Like, aside from Stephen Greer, Joe Rogan brought that up too. He's like, are all these people just coming out as, like, actors,
Hmm.
to push this in a specific manner?
Well, that's the
But
thing. I think that's one thing we have to remember about even documentaries. We don't know how true these documentaries actually are, right? They're filmed in a way,
no, but
or they're
yeah.
it's how you're trying to get the attention, right?
But the first part is, because Tom mentioned this too. He's like, in a different podcast, he's like, first you have to make them acknowledge that UAPs are there. Then you have to, like, say why they're there. Like, it's a step-by-step process. You can't just be like, oh, this is here because of this.
Sure,
You have to,
sure,
like,
sure.
build it in people's minds. You know what I mean?
I understand what you're
Like,
saying.
first we have to get over the hurdle, right?
Yeah.
But then I'm like, so is that like some super, like,
But here,
seven-dimensional chess we're
but
going? You know what I mean?
no, but
Like,
this is the thing, right? Like again, it's like podcasts. People say you can say whatever you want to say, right? Like
yeah.
like in a news outlet, even for like journalists, they can't just say anything. You have to have some evidence because people get fired if you're saying something that's totally off.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Where it's like
And you think that that's
there's
why?
there's no repercussions for saying something wrong on a podcast or incorrect. I don't want to say wrong.
Right. Ooh, that's interesting too. You can, like, psyop people through podcasts too.
And that's what is the attention right now. The attention is podcasts. How many people listen to podcasts? But there's no credibility, or how do you hold credibility in a podcast? There's nothing like that.
Ooh, that's a good point, actually. So if you really think about it, it's like, because I was saying how I don't know what to trust in these YouTube videos, but it's also, you don't know what to trust with the podcast because there's no safeguards in place. There's no like law that's forcing you to be credible. Like,
Yeah.
we're literally just spitballing here,
Exactly.
right? But there's no law that will make us get in trouble for spitballing.
Yeah.
But we also don't know who's listening to this and being influenced by the spitballing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, I see that point. So you're saying I can slowly stop freaking out about all this craziness?
I think, I think you just gotta have like a grain of salt to it. It's like, okay, cool. Like, I mean, how do I know if this is all real?
Yeah. Fair. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. How about this one? What are these? So I went back and listened to Ryan Graves' podcast, and basically what he was saying is they, like, fly out, they see these squares with like a translucent sphere around them, and they're all over the place. And then they'll fly back from their training, and then they'll still see them, and then like the next day, other people see them too. So theoretically, he's saying that these cubes, these dark cubes within a translucent sphere, are stationary for like 13 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that?
I
Like,
don't know.
isn't that a little weird? Right, totally, totally. No, totally, totally. But then what I was thinking about was, what if we really are in a simulation and these things are like, in a video game
Mm-hmm.
where you go too far, like Assassin's Creed, you go too far and then it's like, oh, simulation's breaking. You know what I mean?
Right. Or
And
it's like
like,
a
are these things
it's a big
holding
pixel that
together?
hasn't been like rendered yet.
Right? Or right, totally. Or are these things like feeding the code to make sure that our world stays together? Like, why would it be so stationary? We obviously don't know. Like, they could be
Sure.
for multiple different things. But if there is like the simulation theory that's going on,
Mm-hmm.
like people think we're in a simulation, right? What
Yeah.
if we really are in a big sim? Because these things are like just stationary there. It's like, what are you doing? Like, my first thought was like, are you holding some piece of reality together?
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know? And like they're all under the water, so like maybe they're patching up holes in like the code.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it's kind of weird. It's like it lends itself to so many different theories, and now simulation theories. Like I could see, like, if we were NPCs in a video game,
Right.
think of it like that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then the coder comes in. Like, what would that look like if the coder did come in and like affect the code? Would it look like these UAP things? You know? I don't know.
Maybe. Or it's like it's part of the, like, when you're modding a game, you're adding things in.
Modding thinking. Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking about. Because Halo in the Forge. Remember the Forge map,
Yeah.
and then like you have the cursor going around to like
Oh yeah.
edit things.
Yeah.
What if this Tic Tac is a cursor, bro?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like we don't know, and it's just like coming up, and it's just like
Mm.
fixing the map, and then it goes back down.
Right.
You just like, yeah. I really wonder what, like, I'm just very excited to see what this thing could be. Like, I know, I think this was like last podcast where I was freaking out. I'm like, I think I'm done with this. But now I'm watching, I watched Tenet again and Interstellar, and then it was making me think, like, Christopher Nolan, do you know the truth behind what's going on? Because in Tenet, remember, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's actually go with Interstellar first. He was going through the black hole, and then he was in the Tesseract, and he was trying to, like, change things. And it turned out that the ghost that she saw in the bookshelf was her dad,
Yeah.
but from a different time, trying to give her a message, right? And Tom DeLonge said, like, these ghosts that we think are ghosts in our world are maybe they're just interdimensional beings.
Right.
It's like, I could see how that's us, because like some theories are that this is us from the future coming back to like change something that we messed up. Maybe it's AI. Maybe like in the future, AI gets out of hand, or like no, we integrate too much with AI, and we're like, we need to go back and like build our humanity again.
Or it's a
You know
way
what I'm
to
saying?
push
Like,
us towards that too. We don't know which way it is.
True, fair. Totally. But like watching Interstellar and then seeing those scenes. Remember when he's like going through the warp speed and then he shakes the hand of something? He's like,
Yes.
I shook the hand of an alien.
Mm-hmm.
And then later it's him. You're like, oh, this whole thing could be us.
Right.
You know? And then with Tenet, the way like time was working, right? What they're saying is like the forward momentum of time and the backward momentum of time. Like time is just like always happening, but we're experiencing it in the present moment, right?
Mhm.
That's why you can like reverse time in Tenet,
Yeah.
right? Because you're just jumping into that reality for this thing. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And with that logic, remember like in the last podcast, I was saying how light is going forward and that's our perception of time because of gravity. So again, it made me think like, Christopher Nolan, do you know something that we all don't know? Or you're just really into esoteric stuff. I don't know. You know?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is all in his. These are all from the recent movies, right? Or in the, like, after the Batman series. These are all the stuff that came out. Yeah.
Yeah, like Oppenheimer, remember?
Mm-hmm.
It was like, and I was like, there's so many rabbit holes you can read into, and I started reading books about it. I'm like, oh, dude, there's like, you packed so much in there.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's like the true mark of a great storyteller. It's like you read so much, you learn so much about the world. Actually, Tom Long said this. Like an artist's job is to learn about the world and then regurgitate that understanding back to people so that they
Yep.
can like experience the world themselves.
Hmm.
You know. So maybe like Christopher Nolan's like reading into UFOs, reading into the JFK assassination. He's like, how do I build these stories together to give you a different picture of the world using stuff that you know or like could be real?
Sure.
Like, I don't know if this is just like, do you know what's going on, Christopher Nolan, or are you like, are you priming us as a species? And later on, like, oh, actually, Christopher Nolan was telling us the truth the whole time. Go watch those movies. Go back and
Mm.
watch them, and they'll explain how everything works.
Right. Right. Right.
Or is he just giving us like a great movie? I don't know. What do you think?
No, I think he's learning on like with the interviews I've seen, like with Oppenheimer. It's like he read a specific book. Like he always knew about Oppenheimer or liked Oppenheimer. Like the idea
Yeah.
that we know of him, and then it's like he read a book that was more focused around his life and stuff, and from that came the movie. So the
Oh,
influence
okay.
from the book. So what was in that book, right? Was there like touches to about the Kennedys or
Mm.
things like that? So maybe he's
Right,
still
right,
on.
right,
He's
right.
he's going on the same journey as well. He's just reading stuff that this is
And
really
he's like, oh,
good.
this would be a cool storyline.
Yeah.
Yeah, true, true, true. Okay, fair point, fair point. Okay, I'm watching the time, so I'm just gonna jump to the last two things really quickly. Um, NFTs are worthless now. Funny. We just called that from the beginning. It's like, wow, it took all this time to
I
be
don't
like,
like. I think for us in the gaming world, we understand like is it like collectibles? It's like
raindrops.
or like when you buy things on
Game.
in a game, yeah, in game credits and things like that. It's like they're
Yeah.
really not worth
Why are you buying
anything.
that? Yeah, totally. Hey man, I spent real money on
No,
Call of
there.
Duty
But I
skins.
think, but
Remember that?
yeah, but you're using it for a specific thing. Like we're playing Call of Duty.
Yeah, fair.
Like this is gonna look cool playing with it, right? It's like that's fine. That's an understandable. Like you understand your
Right.
purchase you're making. Now, if you bought an NFT thinking that this is the new way to like gain money, like that, no.
Make lots and
Now
lots of money.
you've
Yeah,
you
true,
don't
true, true.
understand this world. Yeah.
Fair, fair, like the digital world. But okay. You know what's crazy though? I was so like we were talking about you. Oh, it's like UFO fatigue. So I was talking to Tara about UFOs, and she's like, "Well, what's the point of learning about this?" I'm like, "No, it's built in everything that we live by, right? Because if we figure out how to." Because she was like, "Oh, wow, these prices are so high," and I was like, "Yeah, because of the gas and like also the recession and also like COVID and like climate change. There's so many factors, right?" But I was like, if we can figure out how to harness the energy that's being used by these UFOs, we can have infinite energy to create an abundance of stuff, right? But she didn't make like the causal link. She's like, "Well, that's just so far fetched, blah blah blah," right? Okay, but then she was like, "I can't believe we're in this like a high recession rate," and I was like, "Literally, Vish and I were talking about this on the podcast, but nobody is listening to us." Like, but she's like, "How'd you know?" It's like we were listening to economists. We weren't listening to the mainstream. We were like listening to people that actually knew these things. So what I find interesting about
Mhm.
the NFT thing is, it's like we sounded wrong until we were proven right.
Right. Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But it's like you just need to do a bit of the research. Like everything we were saying is like we didn't really come up with that. It's just like you see the writing on the wall and you're like, okay, that makes more sense than this. That's why I asked you about the Drake thing, right? I asked you about the UAPs and like what's making more sense than other things, right?
Mhm.
And I feel like if you just are willing to put in the time to look at all the evidence or as much evidence as you can, and then look at the most logical, unobjective conclusion, you'll have seen it coming a while. Like, I'm not surprised that we're in this recession. We talked about this during COVID, you
Right.
know? And she's like, oh, but like, how, like, you know, because the lockdowns would have this ramification, you know? And then she's like, um, yeah, but we're just doing the best we can at the time. But I'm like, we need to start looking long term at everything. Because if you just keep doing everything short term, you know, then you're going to deal with
Yeah.
this
But
like,
just a
is it,
technicality
Mhm.
here, we're not in a recession
Okay.
yet. Just an FYI.
Okay, but the all right, fair, fair, fair. But like the high prices,
Inflation.
you know, like
Yes.
the inflation, yeah, the ridiculous inflation, right?
Sure.
And but it was like they literally said that this is going to happen post COVID.
Hmm.
You know, like economists were saying it. but nobody, like, we were so worried about the virus, so we're like, okay, let's lock down. But then what is that going to do to like the future of the economy? Okay, kick that can down the road. You know what I'm saying? Whereas like,
Well, there's different
like,
ways of looking at it, but
you know what I'm
it's not
saying?
about, yeah, but like were there reasons to do the lockdown? Yes, it's understandable, right?
But okay, but for sure. But what about the money, like the mask thing, the
No, no, no. Of
vaccine?
course, of
Like
course.
those are other evidence things. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, no, no. But
You go
those
ahead.
are again, it's there are reasons. Like if it got out of hand as it did and killed more people than it, right? Then you would have even more of a problem
Yeah.
with your economy later on. Like these
Fair,
are
fair,
like
fair, fair, fair.
how are you? It depends on how you're looking at it, right? So that's what I'm saying. It's like
But I wonder what like the disinformation for that was, right? Because with the ventilators, okay, when they were doing the ventilators right away,
mhm.
even before it hit the news, my mom and sister who are nurses, they're like, oh, they're dead. Like as soon as you
Right.
put somebody in a ventilator, because it's breathing for you, they knew this. So they're like, don't go on a ventilator if you have this COVID thing, like try and figure out a different way around it, right? And like doctors and nurses knew, but it hadn't become public. So people like regular civilians would be like, I need to put them on a ventilator, he can't breathe. But if you're like, actually, if we do this, there's a high chance they're gonna die because your body stops learning how to breathe on its own. Like you're using
Yeah, there's two things.
ventilator before
Yeah,
you.
again, it's like
I'm like,
I understand that, but it's like I think at that point they would have died. Like the ventilator was the only thing that was keeping them alive.
okay, sure. But like what I mean by this like disinformation is like propaganda because during COVID too, when it first started, a lot of like one of my aunts got COVID and she like did a Filipino method, which is just like putting
Sure.
Vicks Vapor Rub on herself and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
putting
yeah,
a
yeah,
hot thing, and then she like survived it. And my dad was like, "Oh, this can't be that bad." And like that's what my dad was saying. He's like, "Oh, she survived. She's like old, right?" But it's like, but then the news is telling you like mask. Like even Teresa Tam's doing that right now, right? Like mask up. It's time to mask up. And you're like, "Are you sure?"
yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know? Or like the shots. I'm like, "Are you sure?" I don't know. Like with this whole thing and
I
with the
think the
acute thing,
thing
it's just
is,
it's really more.
yeah, I know. But again, that's COVID is a whole different thing because that's you're looking at the whole world, right?
But
You've got
it's
the numbers
making
from the
right,
world, right?
for sure, for sure, for sure. But I feel like COVID is a microcosm of the macrocosm. It's like that small example made me go, oh wait, I need to start thinking about what's going. Like we all run through life assuming that everyone knows what's going on,
I
and that
understand.
was
Yeah.
more of an example of like actually not really.
Well, it depends, right?
You know?
COVID came in. Nobody knows what COVID could do, right?
Fair, yeah.
So
But
as time goes on, then you start to learn more about it, right? You have to react in a way based on what you know at the time.
right, but like mass. Okay, so remember when other people were saying that there's like different ways to approach this, and those are people were being labeled as like anti-vaxxers, and like videos were getting demonetized. There's the warning labels, and it's like, oh, it turns out a lot of the stuff that we thought was fake is actually true. So I'm like, what is this
I don't know
mass?
if that's true too, though, right? Like because you people would go, because that's maybe the media stuff or like other people like attacking each other.
That's what I mean. The
Yes,
media.
but people
Yeah.
people go to their own doctors, and what do their doctors say? That's what people listen to.
I don't know because
Yeah,
like what was the
that's
news
generally what
saying?
it is. Yeah, it's no. Sure, the news is
Oh,
saying
wait, hold
something,
on.
but you're sick. Are you going to the news or are you going to your doctor
All right, for sure, for sure. Let me ask you a question. Did you ask your doctor before you got the booster shot?
for the booster shot? No.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's what I mean. That's you're pushing us down this road where like I get what you're saying. It's like if you already have COVID and you're freaking out, but still you you are listening to mass media and whatever mass media says
Sure,
you
I
go.
understand that. Yeah,
Like
but
under
mass
your
media.
example,
But yeah, but the other side was also like, oh, what were those like STEM things or not STEM things like something that I forgot what Joe Rogan was mentioning, but like these things.
Yeah.
I forgot what it.
Like the heart dewormer or something like
No,
that.
no. There was like some mono something. What do you call those?
Monoclonal
Yeah, yeah,
antibodies. Monoclonal antibodies.
yeah. But it's like people are asking for these sort of things because you're listening to that, but you don't know if those are even actually going to work. Also, those are very, very expensive, right? And not everybody could even
Right.
get to those things, right? So there's another thing. It's like,
Fair. Fair. No, totally. But like the reason why I didn't get the booster was because I did the math just off calculation. Remember we were talking about on the podcast where it's like, wait a minute, what's a negligible amount, right? It's
mhm.
like, okay, this will support you 1%. So I was like, well, what the hell is the point of getting another one? If the like, I can't remember what the exact calculation was, but when we ran the numbers, it was just like total amount divided
Sure,
by. It
sure,
was like
sure.
such a simple division, and it was like such a 0.01%
Hmm.
fatality rate or something, or like like increased immunity or something. So I was like, what's the point of getting the shot then? But then media was like, oh, you guys gotta get it, you guys gotta get it, you guys. And I was like, I'll only get as much as you force me to get in order to travel.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I feel like everyone got it. Like everyone knew got it. Surprised to everyone that thought I got the boosters. I did not. But like, because a lot of it, I was like, yeah, I got the booster. Because it was the hate. People were like, oh, you didn't get the booster? Oh, I'm so mad at you. You know?
Yeah, I
And
think
was
I think
like,
that was
I don't know
yeah,
for
that's
that.
the problem. Yeah.
That's marketing, though. That's the
Of
massive
course, yeah,
media
yeah, sure,
manipulation. That's
sure.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
See, like UAPs, this, Drake videos, YouTube, podcasts. It's like we need to figure out a way to vet the information. And like Elon Musk's trying that with X, right? He's like, there's a community board now. So if you tweet something, then underneath, like people fact check each other. How do you even know that's true, though? Like, how do you
Well,
know anything's true? Maybe we don't know
is
anything's true.
it, yeah, that's like what is the best way to solve those sort of things, right? You have to understand like how they work, right? Is the community thing, is that it's not an AI thing, that's based on like base general public, what are they saying about it,
Yeah.
right?
But still, it's just like, I want the experts to tell me what's going on, not like
Yeah, but
people.
even
Like,
even
it's
if you
if you
do
have like
that,
50 people saying
I
different things.
understand that, yeah, but even if you do that, like, well, that was there were experts in COVID on both sides, you can say, I guess, but like,
For sure. Yeah.
right, like, but like,
Okay.
how is the media mentioning it? That's a different scenario, right? They're also grabbing attention to, especially at that time, everybody wants the attention, right? All the media is getting all this information.
Fair. Yeah, 100%, 100%. And that's why I liked Joe Rogan's podcast because he had both sides on there. Like he had Sanjay Gupta or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like he had like both sides arguing the point because I was like, I don't, and I'd listen to both. And I'm like, okay, which one sounds more accurate
Yeah,
to
but
me?
again, it's like
You know?
from there, it's like I understand what you're saying. So which one sounds more accurate? But also, who? This is the thing where it's like, how do you know the other guy is actually mentioning what's actually true?
No, you don't. You don't. But that's why you listen to both sides and you make your own call.
Right. So if
Right.
someone is
So like,
again, but that then it's not really you're saying leading by experts, but it's like no, you're leading by who makes more sense
no, but
in their storytelling.
no, but they're both experts though. You had like Sanjay Gupta, who's like the supposed expert, and then you had I don't know some guy who's like against it, who's also like an expert. So you're like, but both were true. So it's like which way do you want to lean? Just like
I feel like I
percentage
get
thing.
I think it would be more beneficial if they were sitting beside each other and discussing through it versus like
No, we
one on
wanted
one.
to do that.
See,
No,
that's
we
the
wanted to do
thing because
Yeah,
I think
Joe was trying to do that.
yeah, I think those are the things that be much more impactful because then you can actually it's like you can now fine tune exactly where the disagreements are on. I'm sure there was a lot more agreements,
Totally.
but like what specifics, right? Like that's a different
For
scenario.
sure. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Joe was trying to do that. Nobody wanted to do it though, because it was too like hot button issue.
Sure,
Okay,
I think it's like
because of the time.
yeah, I get that. I think it depends on who moderates it. It's like does you know what I mean? It's like I feel like that's another
Yeah,
issue though
totally.
too.
Yeah, fair. Apparently, though, I'm excited for this one. Graham Hancock is going up against historian, and Joe's going to moderate it. So, like, because remember, Graham's like ancient civilization.
Sure.
The historian's like, no, it's only 4,000 years old or whatever. So, like, they're gonna go head to head, fact for fact. So I'm excited for that episode. I just want to hit on this really quick before we run out of time. What is going on with the Trudeau and India thing? Ask your brother. He's like, I don't really know. Like he said that, like Trudeau claimed that a hit was made by India.
Well,
and he has
there's
evidence, and then India was
what do you call that? Our intelligence,
what?
our as in like in Canadian intelligence, supposedly
Okay.
has information that India was involved, or at least the Indian government was involved in the attack or the killing of this Sikh individual in BC, somewhere in British Columbia.
Okay.
And
Okay.
well, that's basically the main thing is like they killed someone Canadian on Canadian soil. That's the main
Oh,
main thing,
okay,
right?
okay, cool.
It's not about like who that person was,
Okay.
right? What India is saying is like this person under their category is considered a terrorist,
Very interesting. Okay.
right?
Okay.
So I don't
And
know
Canada's like,
what
oh,
evidence
it's
they
not.
have. Was he like sending money to cause problems in India, or did they tell Canada like to deal with this person? They didn't. I don't like. I'm making other stuff up, but I'm just saying this is the
Yeah.
story. But it's I don't know. I'm not in control of these things, so these things will play out
I
as
just
they
find
do.
it like for sure. But just like but see, so many things are like spiraling out of control here. Where it's like, oh, the Indian government like revoke visas or something like that for them.
For
The visa situation.
sure, yeah. So that's a different thing where it's like Canadian citizens trying to get to India. Well, they can't apply for visas right now. So since that office is closed.
So right. So like that kind of stuff to me is like a COVID thing again, because I'm like, bro, like, are we jumping the gun? Like you when Trudeau's like, we have the evidence. It's like, well, what's the evidence, bro? Like,
Sure.
like, who fights?
But you gotta
have
understand there's two
neutral
though.
parties.
No, I understand that, but it's like I don't know. These things will come out eventually, probably like what the evidence is and stuff like that. But I don't think that he's saying this off the cuff because this causes a big problem with
Okay.
trade deals, and it doesn't look good for you.
But it's right for sure. But it looks weird to me that it's like, why are two relatively peacekeeping countries fighting? It's like the good children are fighting, white guys fighting. You know what I mean? Like Canada's relatively peacekeeping. It's India's like, come on, who would have thought India? Like when I saw this in my feed, I was like, what the hell? Like,
Yeah, but like,
would have thought
well,
India would go
who are you
against
saying is who you think is jumping the gun? I mean, the visa
Am I
thing
right or
is
wrong?
India's situation.
No, no,
India
no,
is doing
no.
that, not Canada.
No. I'm saying that I would have never expected in a million years
Oh.
that India and Canada would be fighting. Like these are two relatively
It
neutral
seems
countries.
like well, it depends on what you're talking
Like,
about.
what?
Actually, there has been issues before.
past?
It's just because of Khalistan. Khalistan is like a big
Oh,
big issue for like between India and this Khalistan type movement. So or Indian government.
no,
and,
but like Canada, like why?
because
Like,
a
is
lot
that
of this
direct to Canada, or is
so a lot of the at the time there was some massacre that happened in 1984. A lot of the Sikhs that left or like escaped came to Canada. So a lot of the Sikh groups that are here, especially in the BC,
interesting.
are like the lineage of those families who are, and there's quite a lot of people, but I wouldn't say it's all the Sikhs. That's not also true, but it's like there is a movement or push for a separatist state in India called Khalistan for the Sikhs only.
Okay. Interesting. And that makes sense because it's like, okay, the Sikhs came to Canada for refuge, and now it's like, are they running ops on Canadian soil?
Well,
against
that
India?
would be India's allegation. Yeah, I would think that's the reason for their killing. But then in
Okay.
Canada's position, it's like you've come on Canadian soil and murdered a Canadian, which is so this is causing the issue.
Okay. Wild. Everyone's got.
But it's a very 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 tricky situation because it's a nation you want in Asia to be on your side, especially with
Okay,
China and
sure,
Russia situation.
Yeah, that's my point. I'm like, bro, why are you starting trouble? Like this is our.
No, but nobody's
Like,
stirring
now you
trouble.
want Russia,
They're
India, and China, like,
but like that's
no,
this
but
is-
Russia, India,
I
China,
get
all
that.
against
No, I
Pokemon.
I know, but like this was going to come out anyways. That's what I heard as well. That the news was about to come out.
Yeah.
So he he took charge of the messaging, I guess. But like, it was going to come out. It was going to come out in the news no matter what.
But still,
And
though,
because
I mean,
I believe he talked with Modi government when he at G20, which was like a couple weeks ago.
okay.
So
Interesting.
so this
And that's
news,
when
yeah.
it's like,
So
bro,
this is where they.
okay.
But it's been going on for months. But this is when the news have started to come out. But like the investigations or things like that have been going on for months.
Okay.
Well, what evidence they have
Okay.
has not been released yet, so that's what we're waiting on. But seems like I think U.S. is right now at this point back in Canada. The U.K. and Australia are like, it's a bit. It's like you don't want to mess up your trade deals with India right now, and especially with all the other conflict. So it's like. And like, so this thing, if this goes on longer, this could affect Canada in the sense of like having international students come in, especially if a lot of Indian international students come here. So that will affect them from wanting to come to Canada. So which will affect our economy and things like that. So let's see how long this kind of goes. So I don't know.
Yeah, this is the thing. It's like everything is just so like ideologically, like everything is so in tandem. You know what I mean? It's not just one thing, and there's like a total domino effect, and it's like how do you appease everything? Do you got 5 more minutes? I just want to throw one more.
Sure. Okay, well, 5 more minutes.
Okay. All right, 5 more minutes.
Just pushing it.
So, do you see the All right, do you see the protest with the thing? The protest with the diversity thing?
Yeah. But that's been going on for weeks.
But then,
just so you know.
Totally,
I think that was just one of the biggest. That was just the biggest one that happened. But like it's been throughout the summer, there was protests across.
Like protests for this.
Yeah.
Okay. So your brother was saying that Muslims it's true, in Muslims in their country, like being gay is not cool, right? And so they're saying that we shouldn't just make this publicly available because it's not what we teach our children. So what I'm like hung up against is we have like within equity seeking groups, you have more conflict, right? So you have the 2S LGBTQ community, and then you have like the BIPOC community, and they're butting heads. So it's like, so which side do you go for? You know what I'm saying? It's like if we want to be pro-inclusive, do we hate on the BIPOC people for their belief system? But then it's like that's kind of ironic because we want them to be themselves. You see what I mean? It's like it's kind of like a impossible not to solve because you're like, yeah, we want to allow people to express themselves, but these people don't agree with that. It's sort of like when Wob was saying that Asian or like first generation communities are more conservative, and it's true. So who are you going to side on? And I almost feel like you didn't, again, it's like you didn't think that far ahead, because when you're like promoting culturalism but you don't realize that in their religion they're not cool with this, so you kind of just stepped in it because you were just trying to like fill us with slogans of like everyone is one, everyone's equal. But it's like, no, even at that level we disagree. But just realizing that fundamentally, like all humans disagree with one another, and that's why you and I were saying like true inclusivity is like indifference. It's like, do you, bro? Do you? I'm gonna do me over here.
Yeah.
But they can't do that because it's like they want to teach like this sex ed style thing in public school, but then like the Muslims are like, no, that's not cool with us. You know what I mean? Like, are we just hitting this weird ideological point where we finally realize that every person sees the world differently, and it's more like kumbaya is not possible?
Sure. Yeah.
You feel that too, right? Like it's kind of ironic. You're like, we want to support the BIPOC community and the queer community,
Yeah, I know. I
Can't do
find
both.
it.
Like, damn,
Yeah,
all right.
earlier in the summer, it was like there was Muslims as well as Christians. So it's kind of like
Oh, see, there you go.
they found a new ally. When it was like 9/11 time, it's like they were the enemy, right? So now they're your ally.
Right. True, true, true. But then when people like, I would hear them being like certain people I know would be like, oh, damn, fundamentalists, they're so blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, but you're not being inclusive now.
Hmm.
You remember that thing we were saying, like, in order to be truly inclusive, you have to include the person that disagrees with you. That's the only way to be inclusive. Like, if they disagree with you, but you aren't if they disagree with you, but you're like, you go to hell,
Yeah.
then it's like you're not really inclusive. You have to let everyone like play on this, like,
Sure. So I mean, yeah, it depends on. I guess I know. I understand what you're saying, and I mean, it's called a public school, so it's supposed to reflect the public society, right?
Fair, totally, 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 totally. But
so
at
if
the same
you're
point, it's
canceling
like
something
your
else out,
messaging,
if you're
then you're not
yeah.
inclusive. So you're like your messaging is like wrong. You know,
Well,
like
it's happening. Well, I don't know if it's happening both ways, but what I'm saying is like they want this one group wants this version of sex ed to be removed. Well, it was like no, for your public school, it should be there.
totally, yeah,
Right.
for sure, for sure. But it's like, but then that defeats your other argument of inclusivity. So I'm just like, we're just running so quickly trying to solve things without thinking about the further consequences of like future activities.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that is technically how our politics are run because you're trying to run for a short amount of time, get in for 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, who knows, but then like leave. Whereas you need to think like long term generate. It's like we're playing checkers, not chess. You know, we need to play chess as a society. And I feel like if you play chess, it's like, okay, you guys are cool over there, and then you go do your thing. We'll do our thing over here. But that's what countries are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that's why, like, we don't actually want inclusivity, wholeness. We want separation, tolerable separation.
Okay.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree or right? Because it's like we want to do your thing. Okay, cool. I'll go over here. So you just separated. So we want tolerable separation. We want to like tolerate that you can do your thing over there, just don't come over here.
Mm-hmm.
But that's separatist, which is what we're trying to get. You know what I mean? It's like humans are so paradoxically flawed.
Yeah,
the thing we want is not the real thing.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to get that out there.
Yeah, I think that's where the only way to have inclusivity or like to be on the same level, we have to have certain like ideologies that are the same. That's the only way.
But I feel like that has to be fundamental. It's just like you want to love the people you love, you want to love your family, protect your family, feed your family. Those are just universal. I think we should focus on universalities.
Sure.
And then like the specifics around it, you go find your tribe, bro. Like,
yeah, I understand. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I feel like that's why there's pockets. You know, like Little Italy, Little Koreatown, Brampton. Get it?
Yeah.
No. But so like
but yeah, I get it. No. So it makes sense. I think that's these things will. That's the whole point of these protests is fighting over ideas. So you find a
but nobody's thought about the idea. This is what I'm saying is like nobody's thought about the idea. What are you fighting for, bro? Like what? Why are you so up in arms? Don't give me the platitude. Like literally tell me why you're upset.
Yeah. No, I get that, like, but they're not the ones. But the ones that are making the decisions and going through, those are the ones who are making those are the ones who are thinking, right?
Are the ones who protest the ones who didn't think that far ahead?
No,
think about that one.
It depends on like it's not about thinking far ahead. It's just like one cause thinking.
So the people who are protesting are closed-minded.
Are they closed-minded? Yeah, in some ways, yeah. I that goes for anybody who protests. Because it's a complex.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
The line.
Yeah. Of course.
Who? it's like left versus right, like liberal versus Democrat or whatever, you know? Like,
but that's why,
it's
like, yeah, but that's the whole point. Like, what I've learned was like compromise, but compromise is what makes sense.
that's what I'm saying, right? But we're not compromised. Like, why are you guys yelling? I don't know why you're
Right.
yelling. You know, you obviously don't. You obviously want the world built in your
Things
way.
only change incrementally. You just can't. You're not going to be able to like do a whole revolution. That never works out. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, true. Yeah, no. Yeah, fair. Yeah, fair. All right, we can expand on this so much longer because I'm
I
just
gotta
so
go.
confused. But we have to go. I know. Sorry, I like totally ate up more time. All right, till next week. Take it easy, Vish.
Peace. Oh, congrats.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Oh, actually, wait. Don't tell anyone because I'm gonna cut that. I'm gonna release this on Monday, and that's how we're gonna tell the rest of the world.
Well, I'll tell
I told my
us.
mom.
Sorry, you told your. Oh wait,
I
I didn't. Let me.
told my mom specifically. Oh no, it's okay. You can keep.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah. So I told my mom specifically because my mom's very Facebook. So like as soon as this
Oh,
happened,
really?
like don't post this. Yeah, I was like, we're gonna
Right,
we're
right,
gonna
right,
post this
right.
ourselves.
Okay.
So this was my 2 days to tell everyone. So I told like you, and then I'm gonna tell the WhatsApp chat right after this. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Cool. Next week. Peace.
Oh yeah, next week. Yeah, later.
Bye.
Peace.
All right. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all those fun things, and check out our sponsors: Zenro Clothing Co., Portian Bakery, and Podbean. Take it easy, Vish.
Peace.